she did not do a bad job when she was in that authority role.
I mean, she did well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I could see her going to AEW in a role like that, even just for the women. If she's the, you know, I could definitely see her in a role like that I think she'd be really good in.
All right, let's talk about Sonya Deville. She basically was a part of Pure Fusion Collective. People crapped on that very early on, and it really kind of changed into PFC just because it was a shortened version of people really not liking that name. And they just were every week somehow being involved. Guns out, guns out. Yeah, that's it. Shout out for the road, guns out. It always involved in something related to damage control. And it just really never launched off. They just put all three of them together, and there you go. They start beating up people in the beginning. Typical, let's give them a little bit of steam, and then let's just continue to drown them, you know, by the week. Sonya Deville was just promoting a upcoming Madison Square Garden show in March for a New York, New Jersey news station, and her contract released, and she's no longer there. But they knew her contract released, but she was still going out on interviews. EC3, knowing the WWE knowing that someone's contract is being expired. Vince and I were talking about another show as far as back in the old school days, people knew this was going to happen. And so you would stay in kayfabe and do things like loser leaves matches and stuff like that. Why do you think that they, knowing that Sonya Deville's contract is going to end, why is she still being utilized on TV like nothing's wrong, being promoting upcoming shows, and then they just decided, hey, you know, we're not going to renew your contract?
Because nothing matters, I guess. So her contract ended. It wasn't necessarily a release. It was just, we're not re-signing. And whether that's on them or on her, or if it's mutual, who knows? I think like loser leaves town matches and things were like doing favors on the way out have merit when there's name and like substance behind the angle. But usually in the world of WWE on the lower end, you're getting fired, you get beat on main event, you never see the light of day again. Shout out EC3. But also I think there's a huge disconnect between like hypothetically booking media. Oh, he's going to send so-and-so. There's only really a handful of people who know who's on the bubble or who's going to be released. And then there's even a smaller handful of people who actually know what's going to happen. So I think that could be a real easy disconnect, that media tour booked by this person, lost in the shuffle. Oh, could you do it anyways? Sure, man, whatever. I don't think there's a lot of thought that goes into it when the release.
Here's my follow-up to this, EC3. Say, for instance, if you knew your contract was up in 2 months, for instance, there's been no negotiations. And typically within contract negotiations, there's some discussions and there's something locked in, you know, in a pretty substantial amount of time before the contract expires. Right. They'll come up for re-up. They'll have those conversations. And either they stalled. I don't see why they would stall as far as financially. I'd imagine she's not really asking for more money, or at least a substantial amount of money. So they either stalled because of an impasse or they were never discussed. But two things are true. One, she knew when her contract was up, and two, they knew when her contract was up. So if you knew your contract was up in a couple months, why not throw everything, including the kitchen sink, in the WWE's office and say, pick something out of this and let's do this and figure it out?
Unless you just really don't have the passion or care that much. And you're like, it is what it is. This is the best it's going to get. I can go do something else and be equally as happy. So, I mean, don't really know how to answer that short of like, yeah, if you don't have something like even negotiating in contracts, at least like, all right, so we have an idea of where we're going to figure out the details later, a couple months in advance before anything's actually signed.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you, I don't know, man, like I've said before here, it's just like nothing matters. And there's just that sort of low morale kind of vibe sometimes where it's like, I don't care. Like, oh, my contract, are you talking? I mean, we talked for a minute, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Vince, do you think that she'll start doing like professional, like do you think she'll start endeavoring in a professional MMA career now? Like UFC or Bellator or something to that nature now?
I don't know. How old is she, Chris? I think aged, you know, she's mid-30s, early 30s?
Early 30s, I think. 34.
Bro, I'll tell you what. She
31.
She did not do a bad job when she was in that authority role.
I think she did well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I could see her going to AEW in a role like that, even just for the women. If she's the, you know, I could definitely see her in a role like that I think she'd be really good in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think a female authority role on. What do you think of the translate? I mean, you're the TNA guy, EC3. Do you think a Sonya Deville female authority role would translate in TNA at all? Because she would be opposite Santino. So he's the comedic role. She'd be the straight-laced person, you know. Perhaps it'd be,
When you mentioned that, like, I was like, I don't know. I don't watch wrestling. But when you mentioned opposite Santino, my eyes lit up. I'm like, oh, yeah, because he will make anything work. And then if you have like a overtly comedic on one hand and a straight person on the other, yeah, that's dynamite television usually. And I think that leads to Sonya versus Santina in some sort of insane stipulation match. I'd watch that for sure. Or he just gets his ass whipped. Be good fun.
That would be. All right, let's get to Elektra Lopez. I think I mentioned her name as well. She is also gone. Nothing really came from her. She was just eye candy, you know, to the Legado del Fantasma clique. They never really did much in ring with her. Main roster, she was just there. She had a presence on NXT. Nothing really came from her. Did you have any experience with Elektra Lopez at all, EC3?
Nope, didn't know who it was, so I looked it up. So,
God, just in that same category as like Ellering. Why are you bringing these people in if you're just not going to do anything? I don't understand that. I mean, I was a head writer. I'm not going to bring somebody in and put them on my TV show if we're not going to do something with them. Just doesn't make any sense to me, man.
It's been like
that. Say that again.
She looks tough.
Yeah.
You
know, they're just a lot of those women in roles are just eye candy now. They're just there. I mean, Elektra Lopez, Scarlett Bordeaux, you know, like they
waste her, man. They waste her.
She's actually solid in the ring too.
Yeah, but she's actually she's very into the managerial role, and I think when Kevin and her are allowed to do what they're actually able to do, they're excellent as a unit. So it's more so just bad creative.
They are, but they haven't been. I mean, we've barely even seen her, you know, from a week-to-week basis. We'll see Karrion Kross randomly interrupting the Sami Zayn nowadays. We don't even see Scarlett nowadays.
You watch Kross's social media, and he's always posting creative banger little videos and making his own thing happen in his own world, which I respect the hell out of. And they thrive in that. It's just like a matter of putting it on television with 24 people on typewriters churning out dog shit, getting thrown against the wall. Some of it sticks. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about we talked about before, Vince and I, like there's just certain minds that I mean, we mentioned your name too, EC3. There's just certain minds that transcend the pro wrestling bubble that's just way above and just light years away from the pro wrestling bubble as far as just creativity is concerned. Karrion Kross is one of those people for sure. I mean, we see that. WWE doesn't know what to do with him, and we've seen that from day one of his main roster run. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's on deck, but sad to see, man. Sad to see. Good brothers, Anderson and Gallows, EC3. Yeah. Again.
Yeah. Oh, they're the best dudes ever, and they're going to be just fine wherever they go. They're going to be able to write their own ticket, command a great rate. They're the coolest. Like, just sucks it never really. I mean, does it suck? Like, didn't pan out on main WWE broadcasting like it did with NXT or All Japan or even their stuff in TNA. Like, they rule and they'll be okay.
EC3, if you're an Anderson or if you're Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows as a team, and you're having a lot of more liberty when you're in TNA, when you're in AEW, just, a few years back, they were rolling with Kenny Omega, and they were in both TNA as tag team champions, and they had a prominent spot in AEW too. And so they had a lot of more liberty, of course, New Japan. And what would make someone like an Anderson and Gallows have this type of exposure still on national television and international television, being in Japan, to locking in another contract with WWE after so many times where they weren't utilized on a consistent basis and being released and coming back? What would make them come back after being released before and having exposure elsewhere?
Short of guaranteed money is the hope that there's a change of guard, so to speak, or a creative plan put in position that can truly excel, where at the end of the day, the worst case scenario is guaranteed contract for a lot of money, and if it sucks, I'll get a 90-day vacation. I can get back to doing what we were doing and having fun. So same thing I would contemplate. Would you ever go back? Yeah, but what is it going to be? Like, you're not going to use your right, or you're going to get buried. Yeah, but there's hope, because now there's a different office in charge and this and this and this. You're probably right, but holding out that hope, having a good attitude, coming in strong, wishing for the best. Worst case, well, 6 months where I'm on the bench and 3 months where I'm paid to do nothing. Then I'll be back doing what I wanted to do anyways. There are worse fates.